If it looks like a pole dancing teacher and dances like a pole dancing teacher, it still might not be a pole dancing teacher. So, welcome to today's Friday CoffeeCast. And the intention with Fridays not only is to wrap up what we have covered across the rest of the week in the four pillars and the CoffeeCast, but also to bring you a little bit of light-hearted thought provocation. And so we start today with my experiences as an accidental pole dancing teacher. And we go back many years to a time before I gave up drinking and when I was still young and quite headstrong and full of youthful vigor. I hope I'm still full of some kind of youthful vigor, but certainly probably not quite the same kind. And it was a night out in Nottingham with my dear friends. And at the time, I was trying to be a UK hip hop entrepreneur. And we were trying to build out a stable of different kind of artists and, create a record label. And so one of the nights we went up to see some other artists that we were collaborating with, and we went out on the town. However, uh, as was often the case, one of our group was wearing trainers, and so we were relegated far away from the quote unquote reputable establishments, and we found ourselves in this giant bar slash club. I have no idea what the name of it was, and we were all fairly merry. And in the middle of this bar slash club was this enormous pole that various people, mainly women, were having a go at dancing on. Some were seriously good and obviously either professionals or had done a few classes. Others not so much. And previously in gym at school and things like that, wherever I'd seen poles, I'd actually been able to kind of swing on them fairly effectively. So I thought, oh, I'll give this a go. And so up I ran and jumped and leapt for the pole and managed to somehow do some crazy move where I flipped myself upside down, wrapped my legs around it, and then slid down, spinning round, all while actually being quite in control of the movements. And from there, I carried on with a few other moves that I can't quite recall at this stage. Suffice it to say that my friends were in stitches. And yet, the funniest thing was yet to come. So I got down off my turn on the pole and headed over to the bar to pick up a drink, and was approached by this, really quite attractive and healthy-looking lady who said, "Wow, where do you teach?" And I'm like, "Sorry, what? What are you talking about?" She's like, "Where? I'm assuming you're a pole dancing teacher. Where do you teach?" And I looked at her in utter disbelief and said, that's probably only the third time I've ever seized a pole in my life. And her face changed as well. She was like she couldn't compute, obviously, what she'd just seen. So why am I sharing this story of me being mistaken for a pole dancing teacher? Well, there are a couple of lessons here. One is that every one of us will make assumptions that don't serve us. For example, this lady who came up to me at the bar afterwards, could have forked out some money for private lessons from me to teach her even more advanced pole dancing techniques. I've got no idea. She could have also got me in to teach some of her students. And both of those instances, that assumption that I'm a pole dancing teacher would have been disastrous for her. Okay. And so across all four pillars, as you seek to build out your greater life, we do confront the old adage of it's what you don't know that causes you the problems, right? And so assumptions can be really hard to pin down. And one of the ways that we can start to examine our assumptions is in what my business partner, Mike, called killing your darlings. I've also come across this as known as killing your sacred cows. And this is the idea that wherever perhaps you are not willing to fundamentally challenge a belief or principle that you hold, well, there is a possibility that you may have an assumption or a blind spot that in the long term may not serve you. And, I can take an example in my own life from the home pillar. For a long, long time, I was operating under the illusion that any time in a relationship, I might do something to support my partner to feel safer, to feel more at ease, then I would in some way, shape, or form be playing into codependence, and that she should just this is obviously a while back how I thought she should obviously just pull her socks up and deal with whatever was going on, and that what I was doing, if she was reacting to what I was doing, that wasn't my problem. And I just assumed that this was the cutting edge of thinking, that in order to support her to be more empowered and more independent, and that I could just do whatever I want and she should just have to deal with it. As I say all of this, the folly of my perspective is abundantly clear to me now. But that was how that was the assumptions that I was operating on. Those were the sacred cows that I was unwilling to kill, until I read a book called Getting the Love You Want. Really, really outstanding book. I took a lot from it, which introduced the idea of creating safety in the space between, and others, you may have heard it termed as the we space. Like, what is the third space that is created within a relationship where you have yourself, you have your partner, and there is a third space, the space of the relationship that you cultivate together, and that actually taking steps to keep that space a space of safety, psychological safety, is one of the most profound acts of cultivating a healthy, long-term, thriving, loving relationship. And so that was an example where for so long, I see how much, unnecessary pain I probably caused to myself and partners by operating on this assumption that people should be able to deal with whatever came their way. So I share all of this to invite you through my slightly humorous story of being mistaken for a pole dancing teacher, to consider, where might you be unwilling right now to change your mind about something? And it may even be an area where your friends and family tease you about it. Okay. And in that teasing, perhaps you even double down in holding steadfastly to this principle or belief. What might happen? What might shift about your worldview, your self view, if the opposite was true? So that is a question that I offer in today's CoffeeCast, is what might change if you genuinely were willing to challenge some of your most cherished assumptions? And finally, the second thing I leave you with is the idea that we each have wows that we may totally underappreciate. Now, since my pole dancing exploits, I've never stepped foot in a pole dancing class again. However, or ever, actually, not again. I haven't done one at all. But it's worth pondering, right? If I was able to just, after a few drinks, leap up onto a pole and pull off a move that had an established pole dancing teacher thinking I was a pole dancing teacher too, well, perhaps there's something there that I would have been well to explore. Perhaps I had some kind of innate ability or gift for pole dancing, whether because of my, body type. I was naturally, my core was quite strong. Well, I don't know. I literally don't understand the techniques of or technicalities of pole dancing enough to be able to make an accurate assessment. But there's something there. And so that's my other question, is because across all four pillars, there are going to be opportunities for us to create greater lives. So where, across the four pillars, have you experienced that kind of effortless wow? and perhaps not done anything with it. And so that's my question for the weekend is, what were those wows? And how about you go ahead and book a pole dancing lesson? And what I mean by that is do something that perhaps gives you an opportunity to explore whether this effortless and accidental wow could be something that becomes a foundational part of your greater life going forward. All right. Have a fantastic weekend. Don't be afraid to kill your sacred cows and to look at where you've got those effortless wows that you could pursue. All right. I'll see you next week.